How do B's and G's, and welcome to this particular edition of the Kakutougi Fightcast, which is brought to you on behalf of the Kakutougi Fight Forum, which in my humble opinion is the preeminent place to go to look at combat sports news, views and whatever else you'd like to look at. There's all sorts of other subboards on there for you to peruse. It's absolutely free to join, please do so. We'd love to have you aboard the craft. Come by and say hello. Anyway, today's particular edition is going to be focusing on this recent Glory 34, which went down as I record this about a day and a half ago. But before we slide into that, I'm going to have another attempt at a quiz for a little bit of interaction if anybody's listening. Last time I tried a Furious 5 quiz. I'm going to have a different tack on this particular edition. What I'm going to do, I'm going to give you 5 clues, and they will be they will reveal the identity of a particular combat sports figure, past or present. I'm not going to tell you which. But here we go. The first of the 5, I'll do all 5 in straight order. Here we go. Clue number 1. I am 1-4, that's 1 win and 4 losses against K1 World Grand Prix final champions. Clue number 2. I almost started a fight backstage that was caught on camera, and I wasn't even competing on the card at that time. Clue number 3. I once shared a ring with Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali at the same time. Clue number 4. Despite my inexperience at mixed martial arts, I have fought a former UFC champion under MMA rules. And final clue number 5. Eurosport commentator, the legendary Sensei Will Vanders, would always comment on how good I looked. Who am I? There you go. If you have any ideas who it is, please let us know via the normal channels. You could let us know via the forum if you sign up to that, or if you're a member of the forum, you could just put your answer in. You can also let us know via the YouTube comments, SoundCloud comments, and I think you can comment on iTunes, I'm not quite sure. But please, if you have any idea who it is, have a stab, and I will give you an answer at the next Fightcast. If I do remember just for at the end of the show, I will run through those 5 clues again. Anyway, that's Who Am I? Giving you a go on that one. And then we'll move on to the main topic at hand, Glory 34, which went down on the 22nd of October at the First Bank Center in Broomfield, Colorado. But yet the event was advertised as Glory 34 Denver. Picking there, aren't I? I think they've done the same thing as well in... Where was it? I can't remember where it was. I think it might have been LA. Yes, it was. It should have been Glory Ontario, but it was Glory LA. There you go. Anyway, the first fight on tap was lightweight contest. A point I want to bring up straight away. It was both men weighed in. That's Justin Houghton and Johnny Tsunami Wadurko. Both men weighed in at 150 pounds, which is obviously within the lightweight limit. But it was advertised as a featherweight contest, so either both men didn't make weight, or there was a mistake going on with the Glory graphics. I'm not quite sure. I'm not going to rag on the gentlemen both too much, because I certainly couldn't do what they do within the 4 corners. But I must say that I don't think either man is Glory ready just yet. I think ideal situation would have both of those gentlemen competing on the undercard, which airs before the Super Fight series. I'm pretty sure that Glory have a handful of fights before their events start, which is I think it's whoever the local promotions are in and around the area where they have a show at the time. They'll have a few contests like that. I think that Mr. Houghton and Mr. Wadurko would be better off suited for those while they brush up their skills. Justin scored the win. I had it 29-28. It was a split decision. However one judge scored to Wadurko, I have no idea. But that was the first one. Second contest saw Richard Abraham against Michael Matata. The first thing I want to note about Mr. Matata was his nickname, which was the Blood Diamond, which is very close, so close to a nickname I would love a fighter to come out to one day, and that is of the Blood Orange. Someone's got to have that name one day, surely. But anyway, all 3 judges scored it 30-27 to Abraham. I had it 29-28. The judges seemed bizarrely high on Matata. Really did go overboard with his work. I didn't think he was particularly impressive. He was awkward. He wasn't tricky. There's a difference, I think, between tricky and awkward. But once fatigue started to set in, then the lack of basic fundamentals, I think, really shone through for Mr. Matata. Abraham constantly comes forward and throwing shots, feet, fists, and knees. I think he's somebody that Glory will build on in the future, as he has a human interest story. I believe he has a young child who died. His name is Maximus, which is where he picks his nickname up from. So I would not be at all surprised to see him focused on a little bit more going forward. He's not a bad fighter at all, really, is he, Mr. Abraham? And I'm quite pleased he picked up the victory there. Mateta seems to be a gym mate of Israel Adesanya. Onwards and upwards for him, hopefully, going forth. The third contest, this is when things started to get really a little bit interesting for me. Tongchai Sitsongpinong, we're very interested to see how he fares going forward, and in this particular bout against Casey Green. Casey, of course, is a Glory alum, competed several times for Glory. He's more of an MMA guy than a kickboxing guy, and unfortunately for him, I think that really did shine through on the night. Tongchai was levels above Mr. Green. I think going forward, something that Glory would like or should take a bit of an interest in their matchmaking, because that there was light years between the gentlemen when it came to striking. Also, there's a lot I'd like to say about the officiating on that contest. Tom Johnson, of course, dilly-dallied a little bit, but I think the main problem was that I believe there's a rule for the Colorado Commission that it states that a cornerman cannot throw a towel into the ring and he cannot get onto the ring apron. He has to alert the inspector, who was the gentleman who told the referee to stop the fight. Commentator Ron Kruk said it was the ringside doctor. I do not believe it was. I believe it was the ringside inspector. Each corner has an inspector who views what's going on in between rounds to make sure that they're not applying too much Vaseline or could be doing all types of illegal activities if there wasn't an inspector there. I know, for example, in Las Vegas and California, you are not allowed to douse the cornermen are not allowed to douse the fighters with water. So I don't know how Mike's gym would get along on that. But the inspectors are there to enforce those types of rules. There was just that couple of seconds difference in between the inspector being alerted and then getting onto the ring apron to tell the referee was all the difference. I think if the corner man was allowed to just throw the towel into the ring, then that vicious knockout at the end of the fight would have been averted, in my opinion. Casey also seemed to pick up what seemed to be a particularly nasty knee injury when he was rocked at the end of the first round, and he did that awful dance where he looked like a newborn foal. Going forward, I think if Casey's going to continue in the Glory ring, he needs to be matched accordingly. Tongchai, like I said, it's going to be fascinating to see how he goes forward from here. I believe he has some sort of dedication problems, and he has a gambling problem as well as it regards to chickens in his native Thailand. But, of course, I think after that performance, a lot of people will be looking forward to a potential Nicky Holtzken-Tongchai battle. Should be interesting to see if that one comes to fruition, whether Tongchai can get there. Tongchai, of course, picked up a loss. I think it was under Kunlun to Noela Moali, which was a big upset, so that really does put into perspective how he's got to go forward, I would imagine, in Glory. I didn't think you could throw him into the Wolves just yet. I think he needs 1 or 2 fights experience under the kickboxing rule set. That's that one out of the way. I just wanted to notice that for the Super Fight series, it did seem very well attended. I've seen some Super Fight series for Glory where you can also almost hear the fans and the people in attendance sniffing and sneezing. It's been that sparsely attended, but that wasn't the case this time, I'm glad to say. Then we had Saulo Cavallari defeating Brian Dowes in what wasn't much of a contest at all, was it really? Poor Mr. Dowes was constantly throwing himself off balance and was going into clinches a lot, too many clinches. I think the referee, Oscar Martinez, I've heard that name before somewhere, should have been deducting points. I must say, first of all, regarding the referees, I think they're more MMA-centred officials rather than kickboxing. I think that showed a little bit through the course of the night. Dowes is his second straight appearance in Glory where he's been a bit of a clinch fest. I think going forward for Glory, to be honest, I think with 2 straight appearances, 2 disappointing performances, I think that's something that Glory need to address if they're going to keep on using Brian. I also noticed that Brian was with Mike's gym. In the past he's been with the Coliseum, I think was his previous appearance for Glory, and he's also had a spell training with the legend that is Peter Arts, but he appears to have made the switch to Mike's gym. And the other thing I wanted to notice on Mr. Dowes is his eyelid. He does appear to have a little bit of a droopy eyelid. I'm wondering how he got past the commission checks. I know in Vegas and California they are very stringent, and I don't know if he would get past the particular medical checks there. I know that there was years ago, going back to about 1996 Olympic gold medalist, boxing gold medalist David Reed. He suffered from the same sort of thing, but I think it was actually a fair bit worse. He had a droopy eyelid. He had numerous operations to correct it, but because of his profession, being a professional boxer, that really didn't help. And I think his surgeons told him that if you can continue to be a pro boxer while having these operations, there will be a point of no return when it will droop and it will continue, and your vision will be severely compromised. And that, unfortunately, I believe, is what happened to David. I remember reading an article, I think it was either the Ring magazine or Boxing News, where his former coach Al Mitchell said that David was suffering from depression due to his eyelid problems. So I'm hoping that's something that Brian won't suffer with in years to go. I'm a lot interested to know what his actual problem with that eyelid is. And then we had the main event of the Superfight Series, which is Gabriel Varga defending his featherweight championship against Robin van Roosmalen, making his featherweight debut for Glory. Also made a little bit of history in becoming the first Glory fighter to win 2 belts at different weight divisions. I actually thought going into the contest that Gabriel, I thought it was going to be a late round contest. I thought if Robin was going to win, he would have to get a finish. If Gabriel was going to win, it would be via decision. First round, it definitely seemed to be a Varga type of fight. He bloodied Robin's nose pretty quickly, but when Robin scored that knockdown in the second round, and I believe one of Gabriel Varga's teeth were removed from his mouth, that really did seem to have a psychological effect on Gabriel, and from that point on, Gabriel really did struggle, and it was a bit of the RVR show going forward from there. Gabriel seems to be one of those cerebral types of fighters, in my opinion, where he needs time to think and look at all the angles and those sorts of things. If he's drawn into a contest where he's got to bite down on his non-existent gum shield, because his corner forgot to put the gum shield in prior to that second round, and when he has to actually bite down on the gum shield and fight, I think that's when Gabriel will have a little bit of trouble. But from that point on, Gabriel was more or less out of the fight. He seemed to be affected psychologically, like I said, and Robin continued to go forward, winning the rounds until the fourth round, when at the end of the round, the referee, or the Gabriel's corner, decided that was it, and that Robin was to be the new champion. Robin I'm a big fan of his. How can you not be if you're a fight fan? He's constantly going forward, constantly aggressive, and he always gives good value for money. Hope Gabriel can come back from this. He just seemed to be a genuinely nice guy. I think he's spoke about moving into MMA, as have a lot of Glory fighters over the last couple of years. Interesting to see how that pans out for Gabriel. I hope he doesn't give up too much and continues on the road to getting back his featherweight championship. But that was the Super Fight Series. Anything else I want to pick up? I want to notice that Glory now score spectacular techniques, which is something that K1 were planning on doing in the latter days of FEG. I don't know if you remember that. Sadaharu Tanakawa was adamant that was something that Glory were going to implement. K1 were going to implement should FEG would have stuck around. Spectacular techniques, flashy shots were going to be scored a lot more than just regular ones. But again, I don't know if that's something that, especially when you consider American judges, because they are rather entrenched in their views and ways of scoring contests. Some of them have no idea at all, really, unfortunately. So I'm wondering how that will go, how that will fare going forward for Glory in events and years to come. And then we moved on to the main show, which began with the middleweight contender tournament. The first semi-final, Yusri Belgari versus Ariel Machado. Machado is always a bit of an awkward customer. There's never really much to go on in his contests, the ones that I've seen in Glory. And they're always pretty difficult to score, I think. I had it the same as the judges, though, 29-28 to Belgari, who then moved on to face Israel Adesanya, the Black Dragon, who defeated the White Dragon in his semi-final, Robert Thomas. Poor Mr. Thomas can't buy a win in Glory, it seems like. Israel scored that rather wonderful flash knee knockdown in, I think it was the third round. He also scored a knockdown in the second. Perfectly timed shot it was. Israel was definitely in tournament mode, holding a little bit back, and it showed, I think, going forward into the finals. I scored it 30-25 to Israel Adesanya, as did two of the judges, and the third saw a little bit of sympathy for Robert and scored it 29-26. And that meant we moved on to Simon Marcus's rather quick-fire return to the Glory ring against Dustin Jacoby. Simon, it's got to be said, I think, in my opinion, shouldn't have been in the ring. He should have still been serving a medical suspension of some description. Any inside the distance loss should be seen as So like I always say, safety first. Can't have enough safety when it comes to combat sports. If Simon would have suffered another inside schedule victory, questions would have had to have been asked, but as it was, he scored a victory at the top of the second round due to appears to be a breaking of Dustin's forearm. Something I wanted to note on that particular contest is that the referee, the bell to begin the second round went, then the referee took Dustin over to the doctor for an appraisal, and then the doctor appeared to, of course, wave the fight off. In my opinion, the fight should have been waved off immediately. I think that doctors should only have a look through an accidental foul or a cut. An injury which has been caused due to a strike from another fighter, that means the fight should have been immediately waved off, and then, of course, Dustin then gets the requisite medical attention. So that's just something that, I don't know if that's me being pedantic or what. I just didn't. In fact, I've seen fights before where, for example, there was Terry Flanagan who won the WBO lightweight championship against Jose Zepeda. They both threw the same shot at the same time. I think Zepeda was southpaw and Flanagan was orthodox, or other way around. And they both threw the same shot at the same time. It was a lead left hook, or a lead shot anyway. And their arms got caught around each other. Jose's shoulder came out of joint and the fight was waved off. There was no appraisal, it was just sorry, bad luck, fight's off. But anyway, I'm me getting a little bit hung up on that fact. And then we moved to the final of the middleweight contender tournament, Yusri Belgari and Israel Adesanya, which was a rematch from Glory of Heroes, in which I thought Yusri was a little bit hard done by. Not to be in this case. I thought Israel did enough to score the victory. Again, it wasn't much of a contest, really. Wasn't much to go on. Nothing of any particular note. One thing I would like to mention was that there was no mention on Israel's part of his Chinese trainer in his post-fight interview. He really put over his team in New Zealand, which makes me wonder that his whole Chinese trainer thing when he's in Glory of Heroes is a touch disingenuous, especially when he continues on about my Chinese people, my Chinese friends. It's obviously just a work just to get him over with the Chinese audience. And then we came to the main event. Nikki Holtzken going to 12-0 in Glory, scoring a unanimous decision victory over Myrtle Grunhart. Completely different fight to their previous Glory outing, and that was a real humdinger myself. At this time, Nikki was using a fair bit of lateral movement, concentrating on the kicks, for a hell of a lot of kicks, and scored with a lot of them as well. I scored the first 3 rounds to Nikki, 3-zip, 30-27. But then, Nikki again has seemed to be in the last contest. He did seem to have a bit of a stamina issue, and Myrtle was really putting it on him in the final 2 rounds. I think he hurt him quite badly in the 4th, maybe the 5th round. But Nikki held on for the victory. He's almost to the point now where he's doing a Marvin Hagler. He's going to have to go through the same contenders that he's already defeated. He's that consistent and impressive. So, of course, Tong Chai is looming on the horizon, but like I said, I think he needs 2 or 3 more victories before he can get him into a challenge position. Hopefully, maybe he can win the contender tournament if he's in it, which will be going down at Glory 37 in LA. Featherweight Championship is scheduled to be on the line. Robin will be defending it against, who knows when Glory's choices are going to. It's going to be Matt Embry, isn't it? That's right, Matt Embry. In a fascinating contest there. Embry really got over last time out for Glory, but you've got to imagine that RVR will score the victory there. Also on Glory 37 will be a welterweight contender tournament. No idea who'll be in there. Sometimes Glory throw a curveball as to who you expect is going to be in the tournament, and it is scheduled to be a lightweight championship match, which is a bit hopeful booking when you consider that Glory 35 Nice is yet to have a lightweight championship match go down between Sitachai Sitsongpinong and Marat Gregorian. So they're already planning ahead there. It's good to see. One other thing I noticed was that at the end of the main event, Tim Hughes mentioned that Liberty Global, a gentleman from Liberty Global, was presenting the belt or whatever it was, check, whatever it is they give to the winner. So Liberty Global are definitely on board with the western side of Glory. I had a bit of a thought in the back of my mind that Liberty Global, along with the other media company that have bought into Glory, were going to be concentrating on the Chinese strain of Glory, whatever that's going to be called. That's a fight cast for another time going forward. I know that myself and Shades of the venerable Kixie.com, the kickboxing database to go by in the 21st century, I think. Use Kixie for any of your kickboxing needs, schedules, results, anything like that. Use it. It's the place to go for that sort of thing. Me and Shades of Kixie.com discussing on the fight forum, Kakutougi Fight Forum, about whether Glory will use the Glory name when they get up and running in China. Interested to see. I don't think they will. He doesn't think they will either. But yeah, Liberty Global seem to be spending some money and time with the western side of Glory, which was hoping to be the case, and it is good to see. Great for Glory. One other thing I wanted to mention, that there was a Between Bouts House MC, who was for the fans in attendance, just to make sure they didn't get restless and bored and keep them up to date what was going on. But I wanted to make a quick note that he described one of the sponsors for Glory 34, which was Tivoli Beer. He described their beer as refreshing, delicious, and I've no idea how he gets to this presumption, sexual beer. I remember years ago Guinness were stopped from describing Guinness as being good for you, so I'm wondering how Tivoli can get away with refreshing, delicious and sexual. Interesting. I think that's everything I've covered for today. I will just quickly go over those 5 clues for the Who Am I again. Before I go, I just would like to say big thanks as always to Kakutougi.com's resident Merlin, Patrick. If I didn't have him on board for this, then there's no way this Fightcast would be possible, for his graphics, presentation, and also for his editing skills. Thank you very much to Patrick. As I said before, please, if you haven't done so, join the Kakutougi.proboards.com fight forum. We'd love to hear your views. Come say hello to all the gang. And I think that's everything covered. I'll just go through those 5 clues again for the Who Am I quiz. I am 1-4 against K1 World Grand Prix final champions. I almost started a fight backstage that was caught on camera, and I wasn't even competing on the card at the time. Number 3, I once shared a ring with Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali at the same time. Number 4, despite my inexperience at mixed martial arts, I have fought a former UFC champion under that rule set. And clue number 5, Eurosport commentator Sensei Will Vanders always would comment on how good I looked. Who am I? Anyway, that's this particular edition of the Kakutougi Fightcast done and dusted. As I like to say, keep rolling with life's punches and keep your gloves up and your chin down. Thank you very much for listening. If you've enjoyed it, try and check us out on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes and RSS. My name's Darren Falco from the Kakutougi.proboards.com fight forum. Thank you very much, and us.